Good
Morning.
morning.
Let's see. Close the sheet.
Morning.
Good morning.
So I might have to jump at 9 again
You what?
for this. I might have to jump off at 9. I
Why
have
is
to see
that?
if they're going to record this thing that I'm supposed to be in, where they teach us how to do treatment planning.
Oh shit, Eric.
Oh, Lord. Eric was talking about some of this yesterday about
Yeah.
the bullshit at his job.
Yeah, and unfortunately for you, Eric, the diagnostic manual and all the stuff we studied last year and grand rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most angry about is this idea that everything can be quantified in mental health.
Yes, that's true. Okay. So even if we have a short one today, can we take this hour and Sam, you and I, whatever you need to talk about. If Eric leaves, obviously we have the time to talk about those things, but I'd like to get at least something to put up for the basics thing, and maybe coincidentally, um, the topic that I thought about talking about was that all basic measurements must be made while people are interacting with other people, and this perfectly fits the idea of what you're talking about, Eric. This is something I'm writing about in the book that I'm writing, but so for anybody listening, um, this is a fundamental idea with everything in emergence. The idea that um, nothing in a person is measurable in isolation. The only thing we can measure is how people, what we see, observe, when people are interacting with other people. So, for instance, if somebody was to look at how I reacted to the both of you this morning, the first, they would not know my first reaction when I got on. Neither one of you could possibly know. But let me ask you why. I had a reaction when I first got on, before either of you had spoken. Why can't you know what that reaction was?
Because,
Astounding. What's that,
well,
Sam? It's
because
an
it's
obvious.
invisible.
What's that?
Because
Yeah,
it's invisible.
but say it with conviction, Sam, because this is such an important thing.
But
And
I only
this,
have 50% conviction because there
oh,
is some visible thing that's occurring when we get on.
okay, that's true in theory, as
I
usual.
can't
Well,
say that it's your
listen,
react.
Mr. Story, you are correct. Take it in. I
Okay.
said you're technically or theoretically correct,
Yes.
but we're talking about something that's pragmatic. You're technically correct, but the idea
But
that
I
you would
can't connect. I can't say that that's coming from us just because your face, you say you make a face. I can't say that that's coming from us.
already, that is so important. This is going too fast. People are going to get
Okay.
this.
Okay. So
Okay.
let's,
No, no, Sam, that's really important and relevant to what Eric is doing. So the first thing is that you can't see who a person is because who a person is to an emergence is who a person is in the mental simulation in their mind.
mm,
And that's a big topic and not right now, but what's in our minds is not pragmatic. It's a mental simulation of our world, affected by all the four qualities in the compatibility rings: scene, story, socialization, personality, and worldview. So all four things are affecting a person. Those are the measurements of a person. And it's interesting, Eric, that at this point, the thing I'm writing is the grand view of measuring a person. Well, why? Because I'm writing a book on love and compatibility. And the essential qualities in the book about compatibility are: how do you measure it if you can't measure the people? And we will get to the
In
idea
Eric's
that
job, they're saying every single thing is measurable.
that's correct. But
Is
let's
that
say
right, Eric? Is
why.
that correct? Is that right,
But
Eric?
but let's say why. Let me go slow. This is a lot, and there's no scenes yet, other than whatever. So my question started with my first reaction, and my first reaction was, "Wow, Sam, that's a good haircut." That was my first reaction when I got on. Wow, Sam, that's a good haircut. So now, not to do any lengthy thing, but you could know a lot about me. That was my first thought. My first thought wasn't, gee, what are we going to talk about? My first thought wasn't some, oh, I have to do the laundry later, or I have to mail a bill, or I have to do something else. My first thought was, Sam's haircut looks great. Not that your beard doesn't also look great, Eric. It does. But these are my first reactions because why? Because unlike most human beings, we look at people. These things tell me something. Sam, it tells me that you care about, yourself in some way, that you're not like broken down or, having a period of depression, right? You too, Eric, even though both of you have things, as do I. So here's a measurement which has to do with compatibility, where do men usually look at another man's haircut or beard or something? I'm not saying none. So the more that you dig into the minor thing, seemingly minor, that happened in my mind when I got on, the more you know me. That's a lot already from an almost trivial thing. Okay, so
I had a different reaction to Sam.
tell me, I'm curious.
I'm wondering why his headboard is still the hotel.
Yeah,
Why?
because I didn't. I ended up staying last night again, and I'm going to work after this. But the weather's here. Steve probably knows the weather's bad here. So I went to play in a chess tournament Friday, and then got stuck at the hotel where the chess tournament is. So I've been here. The chess
Ah,
tournament's 3 days. So, but I was only planning to play one day.
ah. Okay, so now we're on 9 minutes, and think of all the material that we have gained. For instance, about Sam. We know he lives in an area where the weather was bad. We know he intended to play one day of chess, not three, but he's still there. Right. We know from his face that it wasn't all horrible because he's laughing. Okay. So, measurement. So, the first thing in emergence is that all measurements are measurements of how one person is interacting with others. But they are only the measurements that we can observe. So people are constantly interacting with others in the mental simulation in your mind. We can never measure that. We could ask a
Mm.
person, they can give us a couple of things, and this is largely what therapists and so on, counselors do. We ask the person, but even then, and you by now, Eric, you've been working like a year as a therapist, roughly,
Yeah, well, two if you count internship.
but not counting interns,
Yeah,
like
it's
like
been over
seeing a
a
full
year.
full load of people. So
Yeah.
you know that if you've seen a person for any length of time, this is why the internship isn't as relevant. If you've seen a person for any length of time regularly, like every week, every person who comes to you learns what you want, learns what you're interested in. And so when you ask them something about what's in their mind, part of what you're getting back in the measurement is their interaction with you, what they think
The
of
one-
you, what they know you want, what kind of words
yeah,
you use, you know.
the ones that see me.
So, Sam, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how often do you take into account that a person is training themselves on what you want, how you speak, things like that?
Um, I wouldn't say a lot, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
I feel like I'm on people's cases, and a lot of people do that. Like,
Yeah.
especially I'm thinking about people who have a really big relationship with figuring out what's expected of them. Those
Yes.
people are very vulnerable. People with autism, you know.
Yes.
I have to be constantly on it because yeah, they'll figure out what I want and just, there's many clients that just come in and just, I don't know, they're just giving to me in some weird way.
Yes. So now consider again, we're talking about measurement, and here is something that is a professional skill that we have to be able to measure the person. Every time we sit with somebody, we measure a person professionally, and yet in those relationships, part of the measurement is that they're measuring us. Hence the idea that we can't see just the other person without taking into account how they're interacting with us. Where's this going? This is a complicated mess right now. Where is this going? This is a big claim. Emergence claims we can only measure a person when we are observing them interacting with others. So even before I go to what's important about that and how it affects treatment planning, right? The first thing to realize is that if we're not taking this into account, we're not actually knowing the other person as much as we could. This is not to say we don't know the other person.
Can I ask a question about what you just said?
Yes, yes,
Are you including others as the therapist, or
yes.
others as the
All
conversation of
other,
people brought in,
yeah.
or are you talking about physically bringing people in? Those are the three things I heard.
Okay, say again, Eric. That was a lot.
I heard three things, meaning if we're measuring people through relationships to other
Yes.
people, right?
I'm claiming I'm claiming like a kind of Sam theoretical watching from above big picture,
Yeah.
which is that all measurements of individual persons
hmm
can only be made when those persons are interacting with another person. I'm not saying how the interactions are made, but all we can see is that. We can hear their reporting, we can watch how their facial expressions, all the things that we learn to do. But it is important to see that this is whatever relationship. In other words, I have often seen a person treat me really well and then observe them with a son or daughter and seeing them be mean. And that disturbs my worldview because I have seen the person in one sense and taken the measure of the person as kind. Meanwhile, they have a 6-year old and they're mean. Okay, this is not uncommon, but this is the point of having to take the measure while we see them interacting with others, including even small things like at the gum counter and how they treat the teenage girl behind the counter, or the person in the toll booth if they're paying the toll. Do they say good morning? Things like this. All of those things are the measure of a person, which is quite complicated, as you can see. But let me set aside some things. I'm trying to make a distinction between what we can observe, interaction wise, and what's actually happening in the person, because they're interacting with other people. All people are interacting with other people in their minds many, many, many times a day. But it is an important caveat that we can't see what's in a person's mind. As Sam said, it's invisible. So, this idea that we can take the measure of a person is very specific in our work. as opposed to what? As opposed to the view of psychology, psychiatry, medicine, all of these other things, especially psychology. So the word psyche comes from a Greek goddess or nymph or something, I don't know, right? And it means, essentially, it means a person's thoughts and feelings, what's in their mind, the psyche. And we can never directly see that. We can't even directly see it ourselves. We indirectly observe, but when we're thinking about like whatever Sam is picturing right now or not picturing, even Sam is an observer of his own mind. It becomes so complicated. Psychology says you can measure people in isolation. The essence of treatment planning, Eric, is that the person is measured in isolation, in effect. The therapist is never, not never, that's a lot. Boy, is Hannah affecting my always and never words. The therapists rarely think to themselves in a measurement, how are they interacting with, how are they affecting the other person when they're measuring? They are taught psychology. You look at the person, you measure the person. What do you see? What do you hear? What their face looks like, and so on. But as Sam said, clearly, really importantly, but is the expression on the person's face solely about them? Are they thinking something which we don't even know?
Yeah, this makes me think of something yesterday too in the morning when we were at the meeting.
Okay?
And so I could tell as soon as we started something was going on with Linda, but I couldn't know what, and I could make assumptions. And so it makes me wonder if psychology is really just dealing with the things that leak out
But
of a
here's the thing,
person.
Eric. But here's the thing. How do we then eliminate the the obviously confounding, puzzling influence of other things in the person's mind that aren't occurring in their interaction with you at the time you're measuring? How do you eliminate that? So that's a piece because we can't know. In other words, okay, what you just said about a meeting that we were both at yesterday, and you saw somebody else that we're close to um, struggling as you got on. To your credit, I remember you saying that you couldn't know, Eric. Okay. First of all, you look surprised that I heard it or remember it, right? And for a story first person, that is a miracle. Okay. But but in addition, I want you to take to heart now that that is a measure of you interacting with another person where you're not inferring,
Mm,
where you're actually looking to take the measure of the person, where you're patiently waiting to see what is, I see something, what is that? Already you're a cut above at least 75% of therapists. No, and I'm not exaggerating because you're taking the measure and not forcing answers, not inferring stuff that you can't possibly know.
yeah.
I can't say enough about that because that's so not psychology. Let's consider something like the fabulous Aaron Beck depression scale. Right. Sam, you probably know this thing almost by heart, or I've thrown up on it a number of times. Okay. The questions are bizarre.
Yeah.
How many times have you been sad? I'm exaggerating it to make the point. In the past week or month or something, right? How many times
Right.
have you been sad? Okay, but what if their cat died? They didn't get a package from FedEx and the guy gave them a finger as he drove away. Um,
I don't
you
talk
know,
about context independent.
what's
Jesus.
that, Sam?
To talk about context independent. I
Talk
mean,
about context independent. There's zero context, but think of what's missing from what we're saying so far. What's missing is you're not seeing the person interacting with another person. You're not asking any questions about their interactions with another person, although there are probably a couple of those questions that imply it, and you're certainly not observing them. The questions themselves in psychology are designed with the assumption that you can know a person in isolation.
mm,
Now, let's skip ahead to treatment planning. Because although everybody watching this won't already be a working therapist or something, still this is a huge piece of what emergence is about. Emergence, in large part, is about measuring people. Everything, even the mathematics and the science, is focused on a better way to measure people. Okay. But this caveat that you cannot know a person in isolation, that what we can measure, what's measurable, is the interactions between people. Now, that's a beginning, that's a starting point, and what does it do? It eliminates mind reading, it eliminates inference, if you follow it, well. Um, okay, but
And
what? Yes,
you
go ahead.
you basically just ran into this whole argument in, you know, philosophy about essentialism. And I think you just
Say what it is, Eric, because some
so
people don't
yeah,
know.
no problem. There's the idea that like people have like an essential quality that can be measured in isolation, you know, and,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
very stigmatizing as well, you know,
Stigmatizing, how so?
because we are essentially saying what the person is when we're doing it in isolation.
Well, certainly the thing is, in a grand way, susceptible to error.
Yeah.
But this, what you're pointing out, is the piece I'm saying about psychology.
Hmm.
Okay, so that people don't think I am against psychology completely. Psychology, I draw on psychological observations from others for much of my work. Child development, things that I will never see extensively, like perhaps extensive interactions with people with dementia or cancer, right? I have limited exposures to those things and will for my life. So the idea that psychologists can observe, but unfortunately, many of the observations are written up as interpretations as opposed to observations. So this is the second thing here when we're measuring, that we divide direct observation from interpretation. And the pressure that you're feeling this morning, Eric, in part, is due to the bias in the world that you're supposed to interpret, that good therapists can read minds, even though they would deny that they say that. Any statement about something that's in another person's mind is already false because you can't directly see what's in another person's mind. Now, can it be correct word wise? Yeah, but it wasn't an observation. And so that word, observation, is critical in what we're talking about measuring. But it is unique. I do not know another thing like emergent, other than emergence, which looks to limit how you measure people to direct observations of people interacting with others, or the reporting of the person as far as how they've interacted with others. So that's indirect, but it's direct in a sense of you're sitting with the person and you can read if they're lying or you can read if they're uncomfortable or whatever.
But read means infer correctly though.
No, read means gather the data. What you conclude is the inference, Sam.
Okay.
Let's do that because you're. This is a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I can pick any example we could look at. I mean, you can look at
Pick
this.
an example.
I'll pick one that's really just really normal. Um, so I'm in this giant conference room in the hotel where the chess tournament is. There's hundreds and hundreds of people playing. There's a in the I play in the open section, the top section, and there's a tournament director there who sits there on a chair waiting to answer any questions or any conflict that comes up or shush somebody if they're talking or all manner of he knows all the rules. I'm
He's like the
familiar with
hall monitor in kindergarten.
yes. I'm without going into all the data. I'm familiar with this man. I don't know him well, like I don't even know his first name, but I know him from chess tournaments. I know he has autism and he's a very good chess player and he has meaning and understanding. And anyway, we play these 3-day tournament. The last day, I go out into the hallway after my game is finished and I'm looking at the board that has all the results. And the guy comes out to shush somebody that's talking in the hallway too loud that could be heard in the conference room. And I just see him and I just go up to him and I go, listen, I just want to thank you so much for everything you did. And I put my hand out and his eyes go wide and I observe in myself tons of emotion. Like I noticed that I'm in the scene and I could cry literally.
Oh, Sam.
But I'm looking at his face, but I'm tempted to in that moment infer what it's meaning to this guy. Like I'm tempted to say that I've pleasantly surprised him, but all I really have is his eyes widened. He said, "You're welcome," and then maybe maybe 3 seconds after that, he's asking me. He's very kindly going, "And how was your tournament?" He's like, and we've never had a back and forth interaction. Usually he's just like, "Shh," or something. Just
Okay.
not in a
So,
mean way. He's just really cares about the integrity. Sorry, even that right there was an inference. Like, I
okay.
don't know what
Pause.
anything is.
Pause. Okay. So first of all, you're interacting with Eric and me.
That's true. Well, not
So
in that
so
moment.
Eric and Eric can observe how you're reacting to me. Eric can observe how you're reacting to him. I can do the same. So this thing with three people, there's a lot of interaction going on. That's separate from the story that you just told. Now we're gathering information about this man, but we're gathering information about you, and we can see a lot of what who you are simply by the story you just told, where you are telling about interacting with another person who you've, by what you said in the story, never interacted directly with before, or not having a conversation, right? Okay, there's a ton of stuff that we can know from this about you. Now, what you're cautioning, which you are really absolutely spot on to do, is how much of what you're saying is inference and how much of what you're saying, or you're saying the urges,
I
you
have the
know,
urge to,
the
because
urges to
from
infer.
just from what I felt in observed in me and on his face, I feel an urge to say that that was very like emotional for him, me saying that I caught him by surprise. I felt all
Okay,
manner of inferences.
first of all, let's do this because this is important. So, what's direct observation of what's happening between you and what is not? So, what would you say, Sam? What
Direct
if,
observation is his eyes widened.
okay,
I felt emotion. I felt emotional inside.
okay,
It was meaningful to me. And then afterwards, seconds after, his tone of voice was very kind to
okay,
me. when he
Okay.
asked me a question about how my tournament was.
Okay.
And that's um I didn't observe anybody else thanking him. I mean, I didn't.
No, but this is important, Sam. You are saying something that we can't say that no one else has done it
No,
or have
I'm saying
never
I
done it,
didn't observe anybody
but
else thanking him.
but that matters. In other words, when we are doing this, the criticism would be we don't have all the information.
Don't have
But
all the information.
wait,
Yeah.
wait, that's the criticism. What I would say is that allowing and focusing on the information we have makes our assessment of a person more valid.
Yeah, and I could go into the story and say I've played in this tournament 10 times and I would say, from my observations, 80 to 85% of the people have autism level 1 at these tournaments, and I haven't observed very much layer 9 in the 10 years I played in this tournament.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
I haven't observed as far as I can go. I realize. Yeah.
okay. So, I'm going to ask you in a minute, Eric, uh, uh, your thoughts about the story Sam told and what we can know about Sam and what we can know. Well, do you know the person's first name?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, let me
We,
check.
what, you're,
He's checking
okay.
the paperwork, I guess.
Thank you. If you can't find it, Sam, it's
His
okay.
name's Wilford.
Okay. So, Will.
Yeah. Will.
Okay.
That's what they call. Yes, that's right. Will.
Good. So now I want to know, Eric, what can you know about Sam from this? Limit what you know to what he's talking about, not the person you know. And what can you know about Will?
Well, I mean, based on the things Sam said, I think I can know about Sam being like considerate of other people. Like he sees other people. He tries to get into the sort of space of other people's, what's going on for them.
So let me caution you, because Sam's thing about inference is really so the subtleties of it are could take a long time to learn, and maybe I didn't voice the question well enough. Okay, just from Sam's story, what can we know? Well, we can know that in this interaction, Sam was kind to this man. We do
Yeah.
not know if Sam is a kind person because that would require many, many, many observations. But we can know from this, what we just saw, that what you're saying. So I'm cautioning you on generalizing prematurely, is what I'm saying. In this
Mhm.
case, it's probably not fair because you know Sam a while and Sam is a kind person. But that idea of not generalizing is probably one of the biggest things when measuring because we tend to do that. So,
Yeah.
yes, you can see Sam was a kind person in this interaction. What else?
And the other thing I'm thinking about is Will's values about like the rules and the organization of the tournament and and I don't know if it's an interpretation on Sam's part that he's shushing people in the right way.
But
But
it's not an interpretation that he is, because in
Yeah, he
Sam's
is.
story he must have mentioned it a number of times, but including in the hallway, that he was in the hallway shushing somebody when Sam spoke to him.
Yeah, silence is a big deal in the rules of chess. I mean,
Wait,
I
wait,
mean,
wait, 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 wait. No, that's something, but then a person can infer that Will did it because of the rules. And I'm saying direct evidence is you have observed him shushing people
correct.
a number of times. And limiting the evidence to what we directly observe makes the measurement cleaner. And it's a humility on our parts to not do the inference and everything else. In other words, it's even an inference that he's doing it from the rules. You're likely right, Sam. I'm not
Oh yeah, and I
disregarding it.
have a million other data points of him hopping on anyone that's deviating from the rules.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah,
But the examples, the direct evidence would be each instance.
yeah,
In other words, in some sense, we're saying factual evidence. In this place, in this time, I observed this thing.
yeah.
Okay. What
There's
else
a
can?
lot of shushing also. People
What
are
else?
shushing each other all the time as well. It's not just the tournament director.
Okay, but we're limiting what we're saying to Eric's assessment of you
Yes,
and
yeah,
Will.
yes.
What else can you say, Eric?
I just got a flash that Sam goes there because they're like silence retreats. Um,
They are. They really are.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about like precision. It says something about like, when you were saying before about the internal system of someone, I was
Yeah,
thinking
your
operating system.
internal worldview is a simulation.
Yeah, I was thinking operating system. Like he's operating in some sort of like, but this sounds like inference to me. It's not direct.
Good, good. But Eric, that's good because I didn't see you beat yourself up. I saw you cautioning yourself. And you see that I'm saying something that's a measurable quality in you. I just saw it. And it was in an interaction with Sam and with me. So you're caution. You're wanting to do it well.
All right, I got a good one. Will did something kind to Sam.
That's true. That's true. So this is what I observed. The first thing I observed is Sam was excited when he picked the example. I saw surprise on his face. I saw enthusiasm in his, I heard it in his voice. I saw brightness in his eyes.
Well, it was a nice moment.
Um, in his story, he set up the idea of what happened in the hall by talking about how Will has many times shushed people in the room. And so this is a contrast and compare between him shushing somebody in the room, him shushing somebody in the hallway when Sam was there, and his talking to Sam in the hallway. After he shushes other people, he's speaking.
Oh, they're talking too loudly. You can talk in the hall.
Okay, but I want you to see that
Yes,
that
yes.
matters.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say anything
I
else
got you. I
about it.
got you. I got you.
Very
I
good.
was just being fussy.
This is okay. Um, Secondly, the interaction was a social one, essentially, um, with Sam doing something that is very telling about Sam, which is that Sam is a cheerleader to other people often.
Hmm.
So he is giving him a compliment that had an effect on Will. Now we can't say internally what happened, but we can say what happened of what you observed. He reacted emotionally.
Hmm.
Period. He reacted emotionally. You saw facial expression, eyes, etc. But there is more that tells that. That's not enough. But he reacted emotionally. We can know, because you said it, that you reacted emotionally, Sam,
Yes,
because
I
you
did for
said it.
sure.
And more than that, you were emotional, face, eyes, etc., tone of voice, when you reported that you were emotional.
Hmm.
Indeed, you remarked on welling up. I don't remember the words per se,
Yes.
but you remarked on that, which
Yeah.
that reporting says this is not just an ordinary, oh, he was nice to me reaction. This is a meaningful interaction between you and another human being. For you, on your side, it's meaningful. You're not
And
telling
I'm
what the
now
meaning is.
realizing what you could never infer from if you just looked at that scene. What you couldn't, there's so much you can't know. Like,
That's
A,
correct.
I was a tournament director for 5 years. Like, that's not
Oh,
visible.
okay. Don't do it,
Yeah,
Sam.
okay, okay,
You can do it afterwards, but don't do it yet, okay?
okay.
But these things, what just happened was that because I limited what I was observing to the interaction between you and Will, and your reporting of that thing, because I limited it,
Mhm.
it left room for you to see how this is connected to other things.
I could feel that when I focused on just what was observable in left room. I thought about I've been underappreciated in my life. I was a tournament director, and then I start seeing like I'm underappreciated tournament director. This, and then I start putting that on this guy, and then suddenly I have all this
Right.
empathy for him.
Okay, so now what we just gained from this secondary interaction, that secondary interaction came from the limits of what I reported.
Right.
That's one of the most important things that a therapist could ever learn, and they're never taught this. Some do it intuitively, they're better than others because it's there, maybe they whatever it came from, but this is not explicitly taught because
When you infer, it
measurement
doesn't leave space. It doesn't leave any
no,
space to
because
discovery.
measurement for normal therapists, the therapists in training are pressured to infer. Pressured. They're required. Look at the thing that Eric is reporting about this treatment planning and his objections. I'm not repeating your words, but the obvious objection is, are you a fucking fortune teller? How are you supposed to know what kind of mood the person's going to walk in a week or two later?
Right,
How
you're
are
gonna
you
do a
supposed to
treatment plan,
know,
and they're gonna come in with a different problem.
or that they almost had a car accident on the way there, or that morning they've been getting along well with their spouse, but that morning, the spouse was pissed off about
Yeah.
him dumping coffee on the couch. Like, there's no,
Also,
where's that come into a
gotta go to the
treatment
bathroom.
plan? There is no way, because, and this is this piece which I have frequently, imagined. You wouldn't know this, Eric. I have for years been afraid of having in some um, out in the world forum, imagining like being in front of a group of people where there is some kind of a debate style interaction between me and a conventional psychologist or therapist or so on. I've had this for years. Because how do I explain something as complicated as what we're talking about? The thing that we've talked about for 40 something minutes here is complicated as hell. Measuring a person can only happen when you see them interacting with another person. I couldn't have said that even 2 years ago. I didn't know. We worked 2 years ago on inference and not inferring a lot for a year.
Yeah.
Right. But then what else? And in my interactions, I made up a thing. I made up an interaction in my mind with me and the other person because they're saying, where's your evidence? That's not science. Right. And this is my response, Eric, which I am kind of proud of, like a 5-year-old with a mud pie. My response to the person, if they said that's not science, is simple. I imagine myself saying, I have written a number of books. How many of them have you read? And the person goes, well, none. It's bullshit. And I say, and are you claiming to be a scientist? A legitimate scientist? Yes, I am. Evidence based. Okay. So let's see here. Put these two things together here. You're claiming that my work is not scientific, it's bullshit. And you're claiming that you're a scientist and that you're evidence based. But you're also saying that you've never read a single book of mine. So are you claiming to be psychic? Is that your science? You're a psychic? You're a mind reader? Where is your evidence coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. The same place that the stuff in your toilet comes from.
I knew you were going
Now
there.
I'm done. Okay, but this idea is important because this claim that these things that we're doing right here aren't scientific is wrong. because I welcome somebody who has actually read the things. Like, for instance, you, Eric. There are times when you challenge ideas, which I welcome that. You have challenged ideas, even in the beginning of the thing of our basics videos. You've challenged me, and you can tell from our interaction. No, I'm welcoming it. I'm not going, like a typical whatever fake teacher where, okay, anybody have any questions so that I can shoot them down. No. I learn from my interactions with other people. And I realize that a burden on everybody who studies emergence is that it will be seen as not scientific because it is not the science of mind reading. It's not inference. It's not like whatever, relying solely on logic at all. So, an example in Sam's story that wasn't stated um, as far as an observation. Okay, so Sam has said that this man is autistic, and many of the people there are autistic, and you have
I would say
features.
literally maybe 9 out of 10 people.
Yeah, and I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that, Sam. I think that to play chess the way that you play chess, it has to be a special interest at the level of,
Yeah,
what
if
an
you're
autistic.
paying all
Yeah.
this, it's yeah, it's
Yes. Okay. But now take that into account. Here you give the man, you acknowledge, thank you for what you do. He has an emotional reaction that you can observe. We can't read his mind. We don't know what he was thinking, but
no.
he has an emotional reaction. And then this autistic man does something out of character for him
Mm,
completely. He socially asks you how you're enjoying the tournament.
yeah.
This is critical. What can
Yeah,
we
I've
say
missed
about
that
this?
piece. I've missed that piece that is
Yes,
odd.
yeah.
I've seen this guy in a lot of context and he's never
Yeah, but you said that. The context in the beginning is you are giving, there's no social interactions. He's there like we
No,
said
my
the
only other
wall.
interaction with him is a time 4 or 5 years ago at a tournament where I was looking at a position and I know his rating is very high. And I just said, "Hey, can you look at this position with me?" And we didn't even say hello. I'm Sam. He just sat down and started helping me with the position, and that was it. We didn't even introduce each other.
Right. So here is you're adding a piece of evidence where I'm saying he's autistic. I'm taking the thing
Yeah.
from your many interactions with him.
Yes. Oh,
This is
sure.
not just one.
No, no,
You
technically.
interact with him and you say this kind acknowledgement.
No.
He has an emotional reaction. We don't know what was in his mind, but you know what was on his face. And I'm not even saying what it was. I'm simply saying he had an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
You had an emotional reaction. The two of you had an emotional reaction you had a moment, and then he does something out of character completely. He says a social thing that somebody who is majority personality, majority socialization would say, which is, and are you enjoying the tournament? That's big. People who are autistic don't risk that. That wasn't a reaction that is the size of his. It's warranted, or you can see how it's connected to the emotion.
Mhm.
Again, I can't name it. I don't know what he felt. But even limiting what we're saying to that.
No, it really stands out. I mean, I had so many interactions, and the only thing I was asked the whole weekend really is, "How was your game? Did you have black or white? What did you play?" No, nobody even said, "How are you?" I mean, the whole weekend,
But Will said, in
some
effect,
version of that.
how
Yeah,
are you?
and yes, that was the most personal question.
Now
Like the
I'm reacting to Will
yeah,
because as we speak, I am getting a relationship with Will. How
yeah,
can I do that? I've never met him. I'll never will meet him. How? Because I am measurable. Who I am is measurable by my interactions with other people. And you two are observing. My interaction is with a person I have not ever met.
hmm
But we can have this. And
yeah,
you're observing directly my reaction to the person I've never met and the story. So this is evidence as well. I am reacting because I am autistic. I
Yeah.
know damn well how that's out of character to say those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I and I am largely reacting because the world of psychology sees autistic people as cold and distant and impersonal. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
I cannot imagine a more personal interaction between two human beings than this thing that you described, Sam.
Yeah, I agree.
It is so personal that you're having personal realizations or making connections to your own life, being a
Oh yeah, I mean,
tournament.
I sat there, I played these games that were 4.5, 5 hours long. I'll definitely remember that interaction of anything from this tournament. Yeah.
Yes,
I stared at a single game for 5 hours and I won't remember it as well as that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, were we to have a transcript of what we have spoken about, because we're almost, Eric, you almost have to leave. Think about the measure of you, Sam, and the measure of will that we've taken from such a brief amount of information. Now think about if Will was given a questionnaire about who he is, or you given a questionnaire about who you were. I don't care whose it is.
Right.
Anybody watching this video will know more about you, Sam, and will know a lot about Will, more than any questionnaire I can imagine somebody being given of any kind, of any length. And they'll
Yeah.
likely remember what was just happened because it was really personal for all three of us.
Mhm.
And the other thing I want to say, and it's been in my head for a while, is
Okay?
on the other side of this,
Yes.
where you talked about sitting in this debate one day, and having to prove yourself to,
For
this,
all of us, Eric.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
of it about all of us,
No,
including you.
and I don't, and I actually think that, it stands alone. It does, even though your books are, something to stand on. I think the ideas do stand in the evidence world, but the reason I'm saying this thing right now, you know, they've been trying to, the APA, have this evidence-based matching treatment to diagnosis, and they called this thing called Division 12, and it was a complete failure, like a total failure. And
Yes.
in fact, you even try to go on the website to look up the things, it doesn't even work anymore because I was teaching about it in a class.
What is it
So
named again, Eric?
well, they had this Division 12 did this
Division
whole
12. Okay. Yes.
evidence-based practice
Yeah.
where they were trying to compile all of the research data for specific treatments with specific diagnoses so that you basically like medicalize the
Yeah.
practice of
The
therapy.
efficacy of a treatment matching the symptoms.
Hmm.
Okay.
And it just didn't work because of what you're
Because,
saying.
so let's start with leaving out what the treatments are and whether they're good or bad, or how somebody's written it, or what the studies were, leaving out everything. For anybody watching this, the entire point of this hour has been that in order to measure a human being, we can only measure them while observing their interactions with another human being. That interactions that are in their mind, we can take their reporting as evidence because we can hear them say it, we can watch their face, but that evidence is not the same as the kind of evidence that Sam offered about his interaction with Will. And the idea that Sam could tell a story that didn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes, and that we can, I certainly have such a personal reaction to the story, to Sam, to Will, uh, to the things that this has generated in you, Eric, because you're getting on with something that is such a torturous thing to have to do, which is as a therapist, where you're supposed to help people to be more genuine and authentic, and meanwhile, your own profession forces you to be inauthentic and disingenuous. You are doing these things in order to get a license or to be acceptable to the other therapists, which aren't true. Most of it is inference, and a lot of it is based on this idea of measuring people in isolation. That is a lot of where psychological claims come from. I inadequately before said the observations that psychology makes, where they're just reporting and describing, I need those. I can't do this on my own. I have drawn on so many good people's work about this. Pierre Genet is the primary example where Dr. Pencil just wrote down constantly everything he observed in the room, not mind reading. This is one of
Right.
my heroes who did this. I didn't start with this, right? And of course, there, this past 100 years where they have pressured psychologists and so on to be able to read people's, who a person is. Think of psychiatry. The entire diagnostic manual since the 50s, all 8 versions of it so far, not one of them is based in personality.
Mhm.
This is not even based in the idea of you can only measure interactions between people to know a person. It's not even rooted in personality. It's rooted entirely in functioning. We don't just observe functioning. What do I say? That Will functioned correctly because he asked Sam how he was enjoying the tournament? What the hell would that say? Nothing. Nothing. It detaches us from the human being, and we can't know them when we're detached. And the truth is, anybody watching this, just observe how Sam interacted with this man. If you're not doing that when you're sitting with a person, then you're not being a human being. You're being a human observing from a distance, outside of the entire whatever's going on. Which brings to mind, I can't even remember the man's name, that book that I read years ago, Endo, where the guy, the physicist, mathematician, wrote a book that said, how can we measure something where we're in the measurement? We're immersed in the measurement. How can we separate out our influence from the measurement we're making?
And we become police officers.
And many other things, Eric. But taking that idea, now think he's saying as physicists, because science is biased to be able to be a neutral observer, not affecting the measurement, and emergence is saying, no, you must be you must be interacting, you must be a part of the measurement, and you must include yourself as a part of the measurement of any attempt to know another person. That
Yeah,
you
we're
must
basically
be a
saying you
part of it.
have to do endophysics.
Exactly,
And you
Sam.
can't, you actually can't even do exophysics. You're just pretending you can't even do
Exactly,
exophysics.
because you're pretending that you're separate.
Right.
No, no. Each time the three of us meet, we affect each other. All three affect all three.
Right.
And you're actually making me think about how, even in like the psychodynamic tradition, you had Freud and he was sitting in the back and he was just, I'm the interpreter, and then
That's
they've
right.
been so reinterpreted. Even today, they call it relational psychodynamic in the more modern
Yeah.
perspective, where they recognize you
That
can't
yes. That's
do
right.
that shit without both people and looking at what both people are doing with each other.
Okay. So pause as you have to leave. Consider how a person doing traditional years ago um, Freudian therapy, sitting on the couch, out of the view of the person who's lying down or sitting in their chair and the person's on the couch. Consider that that is a measurement of the person when another person's sitting in the room and being cold to them. That it's it's completely different than what's seen, and there's a value, Eric. And here's the value. If we take this in the emergence tradition of you can only measure a person with their interactions with another person, and if you take it that the most devastating condition that a human being can be in is isolation, then that therapy type of therapy is introducing into the room the most extreme pressure on the person to push to the surface the stuff that's really the worst in them. Now, we're not talking about it in a Freudian sense. We're simply talking about it in a humanistic sense. That person being cold has an effect on the other person. And I spent a little over a year with somebody who was a Freudian, did that type of therapy, and I guarantee you that I relived every painful event in my life because the person was cold. What did it say about her taking the measure of me as a person? Well, not a very broad measure, just me at my worst. But this is therapy, right? Most therapists just want to get at the problem. They don't want to know the person. Who cares about the person? They don't need my help if they're doing fine with that. Well, that's bullshit. How do you help a person if you don't know the person? And then you go on to the thing that you're doing, Eric, which is, and how do you make a treatment plan when you're not a mind reader, let alone a fortune teller?
Hmm.
That's absurd. And yet, you're going to have to learn this morning about how to fake it.
Ugh.
Before Eric goes, Sam, what did you learn about treatment planning in your education?
Nothing. I don't. I'm sorry. Nothing. I can't learn anything about it.
Nothing.
I'm so blessed that AI, like not I don't mean AI like ChatGPT. I mean the company I use to deal with insurance
Yeah.
literally has all the AI set up for all of that stuff. So you click treatment plan, you literally click what the diagnosis is, and it gives you all the objectives. You click which objectives you like. So I click depression, objectives, goals. I click, 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 and then I sign the thing. I don't have to write the plan. It's you just choose from I mean, you can do a custom one if you don't want to pick from theirs, but why would I, you know?
Why would you do your own fake treatment plan when you can have one that you're paying for, a fake
Yeah, the
treatment
art
plan?
form is connecting what happens to the in the room to
Yes.
the treatment plan. That's the
Yeah.
art form. So I try to make the treatment plan as generalized and expansive. So but this is what I've learned on my own. I didn't learn this in school, but to pick goals like discuss clients' ambivalence toward change. That's a goal I'll pick because I'm like, that is so generalized
Yeah.
that I can sneak it no matter what. And change is important from their view, change, so I've
That's what
found
you're
ways.
measuring, but that's what you're measuring and trying to get in the treatment plan.
So if
Change.
you saw my treatment plans, they could apply to any human being in any country, at any time, any place, any age. And that's what I would say about treatment plans. Make them applicable to the broadest human experience possible. But they have to be broken. The person there has to be something wrong with them. It can't just be. So that's treatment plans.
Yeah. Anyway, you got to go, Eric, or
Yeah, I'm gonna go and pay attention to this, but love you
I'll see.
guys.
All right,
see
man.
ya.
See you, bro.
Later.
Yeah.